evening, peoples, and welcome to our Tuesday evening Bible study from my living room. Had to go track down the cat, actually. Usually she's already here, already on my lap, or wanting to be on my lap, but I actually had to go drag her in from the kitchen. Very silly. So last week we looked at the first creation story in the book of Genesis, which is chapter 1 and a little bit of chapter 2, because the chapters aren't necessarily divided where they logically should be. So today we have the second story of creation in the second chapter of Genesis. There are a lot of similarities between the two, but there are also some very interesting key differences, which we will get into next week or the week after. Want to lie down maybe so that I can read over you? Thank you. Okay. So good girl. So from the book of Genesis, chapter 2, from verse 4. Yes, from verse 4. Hear now the word of the Lord. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was no one to till the ground. But a stream would rise up from the earth and water the whole face of the ground. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there God put the man whom God had formed. Out of the ground the Lord God made to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divides and becomes 4 branches. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris, which flows east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, "You may freely eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall die." Then the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper as his partner." So out of the ground the Lord God formed every animal of the field, and every bird of the air, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. The man gave names to all cattle, and to the birds of the air, and to every animal of the field. But for the man there was not found a helper as his partner. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to come upon the man, which Gingersnap is now modeling. And he slept. Then he took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, God made into a woman and brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one shall be called woman, for out of man this one was taken." Therefore a man leaves his father and his mother and clings to his wife, and they become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked, and they were not ashamed. This is the word of the Lord. So it's very interesting, the differences in between these stories, which I know I said I would talk about later. But one of, I think it was the first Bible class I took in college, we were looking at these 2 stories, and the professor said that virtually anyone, if you ask them to tell you the story of creation in the Bible, will, without even thinking about it, combine elements of the 2 stories, which is very true. So God is making things again, and one of my friends in the statement of faith that she wrote for part of the ordination process described God as playing in the dirt to make all of creation, which I just think is so beautiful, because this is a much more intimate look at creation, where God is walking among us and literally breathing into our nostrils, which is pretty intimate and also a thing to avoid during these plague times. I mean, I guess that God is safe to be breathing, but don't breathe into people's nostrils during these days. Don't do it. You aren't God. But that is a very intimate image and very hands-on and very, very earthy, whereas the first story is more of a grand cosmic look at the creation. So the purpose of man is to till the soil, because in the beginning there's no one to till the soil and to work the lands and to be gardening. So that's neat. So God makes all of these animals, and the first human gives them names, like Spot and Misty and I'm just kidding. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I wasn't there. And this one we shall call Gingersnap. So then God creates woman because there wasn't a fitting helper for the first man. Also fun fact. So the word for man, Adam, so God is making the first man from the soil. So that's Adam from the Adamah, which is literally the soil. And so Adam and Adamah are very similar sounding words. So my favorite scholars, Robert Alter, when he translated Genesis, he tries to keep some of the wordplay where he can. So his wording is created a human from the humus. I am not a person with a green thumb. In fact, I have a red painted thumb right now. I have a bad tendency of killing plants, so I had to look this up. But apparently humus is like another, some people call compost humus, or like it's technically not humus, or I was a little bit vague on the technical details of exactly what it is, but anyway, it's some kind of dirt. So the human from the humus, the person from the soil, I'm keeping some of that wordplay, so that's kind of neat. And God knelt down and played in the dust, and played in the dirt. So the Lord God said that it's not good for this first human to be alone, and so God will make a helper. So rather notoriously, and there is, oh my goodness, there is so much baggage here. So much baggage. Rather notoriously, the King James Bible translates the word as helpmeet. I have no idea what helpmeet is supposed to mean. No idea. I've got degrees in this. Helpmeet? What even is that? No idea. Not super clear. Made up word for that Bible. Kind of snuck its way into English, but not really super helpful. So the word in question is azer, and it does literally mean helper. But it's not helper in the sense of a housewife or an assistant or any sort of secondary, auxiliary, there in addition to. The word azer, in the, I want to say 18 other times that it's used in the Bible, it is either used to describe the help of God, or it is used to describe military intervention. So when we're talking about help, it's not in the sense of this guy needs a sidekick. It's this guy fundamentally needs somebody to help him through. So Robert Alter translates this word as sustainer. I was discussing with one of my seminary friends earlier that she thinks that sustainer is a little bit further from the literal definition. I really like it because it doesn't have the language baggage that helper does, because I definitely think of a helper as like a class assistant or something. So a sustainer, that's like, I would maybe go with partner, but the image of sustaining is beautiful, especially when azer is otherwise used to refer, again, to the help of God. So for example, and I even marked this page, in Psalm 121, which we've read together a number of times, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. So there the word azer is used twice. That's the same word for help or helper as is put here. So it is no menial task for the first woman to be the helper, the sustainer, the partner of the first human. And I think that's really important to emphasize because, again, I have degrees in this. Obviously, I haven't always had degrees in Bible. Definitely didn't originally read it in Hebrew. But my entire life until I started doing theology and Bible classes in college, I assumed that this first story was, the man is first and then the woman is the sidekick. But that is not what this says. They are equal partners, and the help that the woman gives is so immense that it can be compared to the help of God. Did I have an original point before I went on that side tangent? I feel like it was probably my point. We may never know. Who knows how the brain works? In English, and I think I meant to ask one of my friends with a linguistics degree about this, but man and woman are very similar words, and in some languages that is also the case. But in Hebrew, the word man is Adam, and the word for woman is Isha. So there's not as much wordplay there. So here in the English, she's called woman because out of man she was taken. So that kind of is an interesting thing that I meant to play with more and forgot about. And of course, men do not literally have one fewer rib than women do, which some people can get the impression of from here, which that was definitely a side tangent. So this story is very neat, and of course it continues. But it's this beautiful story of everything being as it should be, and everything having a place and being in its place. And kind of a creation is building up to something. So one could argue that in this story, the woman is the pinnacle of creation because it is not fully good until she's there. Also, really interesting, everything is made out of dirt and dust, except for the first woman, who is not made from dust. She is made out of a rib, which is, it is literally rib, but it's also like the rib of a building, kind of in an architectural sense. Structurally, because Hebrew, has a slightly different sense. This is definitely a tangent. In Greek, the word hand doesn't, in English, we would say, this is the hand. But in Greek, this is the hand, including the wrist. So in Hebrew, the word rib could also mean like a sustaining wall, or what's the word for, oh dear, not my wheelhouse, never mind. Anyway, neat thing. So the woman is, I guess, made special, you could say, because she's not made out of dirt. She is made out of the rib of the first man. Also, you will definitely notice that they don't have names here. The point is not that they are literal individual characters. The point is more that they're archetypes. So it's the first man and the first woman, but they don't have names until Genesis 3, which is why I have not referred to them as Adam and Eve, because they are not Adam and Eve. They haven't been given those names yet. The first man is still doling out all of the names to the zebra and the cat and the mouse. Yeah, I'm assuming you're laughing. That wasn't my best. Maybe actually don't laugh. Oh, and naming the penguin. This coaster is Gingersnap penguin. I have a whole set of these. They're the best bird. Anyway, so definitely maybe a more fun story because there is conversation, dialogue going on, although there's no dialogue until there are two people, because I talk to this one all the time. It's a one-sided conversation. And so there can't be an equal partner until there is another person of the same species, because dogs are wonderful, I love dogs. I miss dogs so much. Not just mine, but all of the church dogs, and going out and being able to pet dogs on a walk. And oh, I miss dogs. I miss people too. I miss all of you watching. I miss you. I'm just saying, I miss dogs. But a dog is not necessarily a substitute for a human partner. So yeah, it is not good for the human to be alone. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the human must be married, but the human should live in community. Because when we are alone, we can't have these conversations, and we can't help each other to grow and challenge each other to improve ourselves, or learn things from each other. We can learn from books, we can learn from nature, we can learn from animals, but that's very different from being in a community and being able to learn things and do things and accomplish things together. So, human, it is not good for you to be alone. And I hope that even in these weird times, you are finding ways to connect with other people. I had a Zoom with my DC church this afternoon. That's something that I've been doing just about every week, and I'm really glad that that is an option for me. I've definitely been having more group video calls with seminary friends and others. I've been trying to text some of my college and high school friends more often to check in with them, because I will not be able to fly out west this year to see my niece or friends. It's a poor substitute to be texting them instead of seeing them in person, but we do need to find community where we can. I know that there is a push to get back to living or get back to normal, and we didn't stop being alive. We're still living, unless I really missed a message. But we are needing to find new ways to do things, and that's not really something that we like. New things. Such is life. God is always continuing to create, and we are always in the garden as God makes a new day. So that was probably a lot of side tangents, as this is the time of the week when I ramble about the Bible while petting my cat, as one does. So I hope that you are all enjoying this beautiful evening and staying indoors away from mosquitoes that will give you encephalitis, apparently. This is not the perfect, beautiful creation that God intended. We'll get more into that next week. So, peoples, I hope that you have a lovely evening and a good night from me and Gingersnap.